Inside, don't touch my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. Okay.
There's one right here.
How about a gill procedure? I put them in the camera. Let me double check. Peter, they want you to sit in the back today.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Brian?
Not much, man. How you doing? Forget where you sit?
Yeah.
Fall through. Do that.
You got it, Peter?
Planner to sign out.
Sure thing.
Garrett.
Oh, hey.
I'm a Willow grad too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
What's your name?
Garrett Whitten.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Peter Juicy. Nice to meet you. We're both seniors at the
Oh, nice. What are you guys studying?
journalism.
Journalism.
Oh,
That's why we're here.
Spot.
You
Exactly.
got it?
Exactly. Yeah. This
Okay. Yeah.
brings you to the White House.
Yeah.
You're in the right place at the right time, and then journalism.
Ah, got it. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah,
Good
so-
team this year, right?
Oh, great team. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'm really excited.
I'm excited. They all live. We live in Arch Hall, which is they built all
Right.
this common, and we're going right next to the bridge, and that's where the basketball team lives. And have the whole first floor. We live like right above.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're like boys. We hang out. No,
That's
no.
awesome. Very cool.
I wish. Well, I will get back to you all the time.
You guys.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
been you.
Thank you. Go out again.
This way.
Villanova,
Well,
my alma mater.
you said really good.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Watch it like it.
I didn't know, I didn't recognize him at all.
Final fours. I don't know if they're going to see they ever
Oh,
win.
yeah.
Yeah, they won
Oh, I like
2016
that.
and 2018 actually, and then 85.
Guess what I did?
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's how fucking old.
Pretty much an ad for it.
It's all there.
It is. Soccer and the other thing.
Excellent.
That's it, all in one.
I just remember anything that beats Kentucky makes me happy. Except for Duke. I'm not a Duke fan.
Oh, I'm just playing, yeah.
Okay.
Just play.
intrepid pooler.
Try my best.
Your day in the suit, brother. Your day in the suit.
Had a whole Snickers for lunch today.
Yes.
The fulfillment I need.
I had an energy drink. I'm right there with
There you
you.
go. It's one of those.
Sugar and caffeine. What
Yep.
what we get?
Just visualizing the dinner later.
Yeah.
That's it.
Think they get it yet? I played it. Those you can't sit in. Oh. Did you lose something out?
Yeah, we're looking for a little small eyeglass case.
Oh.
Small eyeglass case?
Is it black?
Yeah, it's black.
Wait a minute. I think somebody put it underneath the, where he said, a small eyeglass case. I thought I saw somebody put one under there. I could be wrong.
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, this is somebody else's. Make sure you get it actually after the briefing. Yeah, you'll pop in and put it back. Yeah. Okay. Oh, is it your birthday? Oh, all right. Well, yeah, the first day. Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Went back and forth. Great, great, great. Fantastic. Give you a heads up. USA take this seat.
You know, we used to bet during the sunset, closest to.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just didn't want you to be surprised.
I did some.
Please do.
Oh, I wore, it was last week. I hope so. I know, I'm like, oh, really? My cousin started babies and stuff. They're like,
together. On the one hand, he's saying that the recovery so far, these numbers this morning show the recovery so far since he's been president has been stronger and lighter and fairer than anybody anticipated. Then in the same breath, he's saying that if the economy is going to continue, they can't just do things the way they've been doing. You need these two spending bills, the hard infrastructure and then the human infrastructure. He told us earlier today at an event where he was celebrating those jobs numbers that he would come out and answer some questions at some point today after the House moved those bills, but it's not clear that the House is going to move those bills or that it's going to happen today. The other big issue from the briefing in the last couple days, those 450, there were reports in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times about possible $450,000 payments to illegal immigrants who were separated from family members during the last administration. The president initially dismissed those reports as garbage, and he said that's not going to happen. The Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre came out yesterday to say it is going to happen if it would save taxpayer dollars, just not at the $450,000 level. It's going to be negotiated to something less to settle lawsuits filed by those illegal immigrants. There is now congressional action from Republicans in the House and Senate to stop, to block payments like that. We hope to get an update soon. Sandra?
Well, you pretty much framed the arguments for today.
Yeah, maybe they were watching. Yeah. Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah. That's good.
More likely someone trusted as a delivery man.
That look says it all.
We have to wait. We do a lot of that.
Friday afternoon. I just hope the departure comes reasonably soon after this.
That would be nice.
I'm thinking over under on 5 p.m.
When he departs?
Yeah.
I'll take it. I think it'll be before we start. I think we're gonna get out of here and depends on when this starts.
Yeah.
So 45 minutes after this is over, or after this starts, we'll get a 15-minute warning, more or less, to gather out there. And that so depends on when this ends, right? Yeah, you're
So if
somewhere
it
in that.
depends on when this starts and ends, I'm taking the over.
Yeah, that's, well, I'm taking, well, it's already 2:34. You might be right, well, 3 o'clock maybe for the briefing. They said 2:45, which means. I said 2:45 originally, but. I'll be right back. I'm gonna use the bathroom before 2:45.
The neighbor chick.
Wow. Guys made it feel like I'm like, no.
She just holds it down.
Not that cool up in here. This is weird. There's no neighbors. Is that yours? Or is that theirs? XD cat.
That's what,
Yes.
yeah, that's a 400, I bought that. Again in 2019. You know how much it was? Yeah, without the lids? 14 grand.
I know. That's what we're talking today. The first few cameras they got, they're like 50 grand and shit. And I'm like,
Good lord.
and they went to chips. They just went,
I used one. 22. This was a chip here.
it's amazing how the prices come down. Now the only expense is really the lens. You know, everything else.
Yeah, the lids is worth what you say, really.
Yeah. So, how you doing?
The lids.
Huh? Does the job.
Streamers like, it does the job.
That's all I've ever heard.
Where are you?
It's just gonna happen soon.
I just don't want to be on nobody news thing. They say the camera put on 50 extra pounds. I ain't trying to see that.
Wait for my secret moment. I'll be out there.
He sent me a text. He said, "What you said?"
You still got it, right?
They claim to be 45.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to birds. I believe the building happens next year. My friends.
I figured it was a mice.
Well, it could be that too.
I saw one in bed.
So they've been working on repairing
Yeah, I was watching that and I couldn't hear it. Meeting. Zoom meeting. And he saw tuning into that and he dropped off. And I was like, oh, that was scary. And I said,
Don't know what you're gonna do. Running into me.
What do you have to do sometimes?
I did say if I would.
Why don't you have to go outside? Oh, really? So if he does that, oh, yeah.
It's almost like you're.
Well, I guess he's gonna leave her at 5 o'clock.
I don't know. I thought we were doing that at 2:45 also, so I don't know.
Regiment. And he's mad.
Well, it's a little earlier than I thought it
If you
was.
had 5 o'clock, that's different. That's good.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Speculating.
That's probably right.
Don't know about the people yet. I will ask.
45 minutes. It was not a full hour.
Or you can run on a day.
So John,
Go.
you gonna regale us, regale us with your
Take it from the top.
Call me a cop.
Are you going to regale us?
I knew many of your predecessors, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like,
Well, you always
Let's go.
something.
Sorry, sorry.
You should do your thing.
Yeah.
I came up with some other shit.
good Lord, I asked you about candles.
This word.
My best
Best
friend.
thing. Oh, totally.
I haven't heard from him.
By the way.
Hi, we'll be there.
Oh. Who's he carrying his old Ford?
How are you?
I'm up right now. 79 on the clock.
Good.
They called me over here, so I was like, so it's still Nancy's Heels. This is a blazer. Hi, you're good. Nice to see you.
That's amazing. Good for you.
He said,
You made it.
Like a running top under this.
We're sending you a note. You know, we just want to keep you on your toes.
Well, actually, you're keeping us on our ass. Except for over the sand.
Great. Yeah, just go right there. Perfect. What a time. Having fun.
So why'd she walk you guys out here? Oh, your staffers? No? No? That's a good answer, isn't it? What you said? No, I was just curious. You're dressed for it, and it feels like church, so. So that means 4:30 for departure. Early, we get departure. Well, that's a fun job.
Peter, what do you think? I don't have a lot of deep thoughts, so I'm not surprised you. I think he really does want to go to Rehoboth, so offer that works. I'm reading Carol Lee's book about reading. Well, so it's really the first third of the book is sort of history of church. That's what I have. It's all about all the things that have happened. You got focus now? All right.
We have a 2-minute warning on the briefing. 2-minute warning on the briefing. Thank you.
Only if they have him as doing questions. Kelly, how are you?
How are you? You got back okay?
Got back? How was Scotland?
Very nice.
It was cold. Sorry, I missed that.
Something that's fun to shut. Mirror in there or something.
You like it? Okay. Yeah. I enjoy it. We had some good cities.
You know, cartoon and manometry.
Thank you.
Something's funny. Hello. All right, everyone, happy Friday. Oh, it's been a long week, guys. It's been a long week. Okay, I got a couple toppers for all. So President Biden's economic plan is working, and thanks to his rescue plan and our successful vaccine program, America continues to add jobs at a record pace. 620,000 a month on average, and over 5.6 million jobs created since he took office. Americans are getting back to work because of the success of that effort. Our economy has the resilience we need to weather the challenges posed by this virus. More Americans are going back to work, and more Americans feel safe going back to work. That's why we added 531,000 jobs in October, and the unemployment rate fell to 4.6%, the lowest level since the beginning of the pandemic, and the place that the CBO projected before the rescue plan was passed that we wouldn't reach until the fourth quarter of 2023. Unemployment has decreased this year more than any other year in U.S. history, and the number of Americans filing for unemployment each week has declined from nearly 900,000 when President Biden took office to under 270,000 this week. Because of the decisive action the president took with the rescue plan and his efforts to fight the pandemic, our economy has rebounded at a rate unsurpassed in modern history, far outstripping those of our peer countries. And because of that, businesses were able to stay open, schools were able to reopen, and Americans are able to get back to work. It's been a busy week, making strong progress in our fight against COVID-19. So I also wanted to give an overview of this work, the work that we've been doing around the pandemic and fighting the pandemic. On Monday, we hit 80% of adults with at least one shot and 70% of adults fully vaccinated. And we're still vaccinating hundreds of thousands of Americans every day. Last Tuesday, CDC's decision made 28 million kids aged 5 through 11 eligible for vaccination. This was a huge sigh of relief for parents and means 95% of Americans are now eligible for vaccination. Since then, you've seen kids rolling up their sleeves at pediatrician offices, pharmacies, and children's hospitals. Many more will this weekend and next weekend. Just like my little one, she's going to be getting her shot on Wednesday, and I thank the team, the awesome team, for putting a plan in place to making that happen. So thanks to our preparation, we're already getting children protected from this virus. And yesterday, we rolled out vaccination requirements that will cover about 100 million American workers, 2/3 of workers in the U.S. These requirements have already helped reduce the number of unvaccinated Americans 12 and older by about 40%. A few other key points on yesterday's announcements. They're going to save American lives and help our economic recovery. To quote just one outside economist, Yale professor Larry Samuelson, economic recovery requires solving the public health problem. Vaccines are our most powerful tool in bringing the virus under control. They boost vaccination rates on average by 20 points, often to over 90%. More vaccinations means saving American lives, and it means avoiding COVID-related absences in the workplace. And we continue to see companies implement these requirements effectively and with little of the concerns that reporting cites. Today, Pfizer, with a collaboration of the NIH, showed incredible promising data for its antiviral pill that treats COVID. This is all subject to pending regulatory reviews, but our understanding is that this is an incredibly promising possible tool in our fight against the virus, with vaccinations being the most important tool. So let me be clear, the work is not over. We have tens of millions of Americans left to vaccinate, and we remain more than vigilant in this fight against the virus. But what is clear right now is that the president's plan to accelerate the path out of the pandemic is working. We are saving American lives and helping our economy continue to recover. And finally, we have a very short preview of the week ahead for next week. On Monday, the president will welcome the Milwaukee Bucks to the White House to celebrate the team winning the 2021 NBA championship. On Thursday, the president will honor America's military members and veterans at Arlington National Cemetery. He will participate in a wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier and deliver remarks at the National Veteran Days observance at the Memorial Amphitheater. And with that, I will give it to you.
Thanks. Can you give us an update on who the president has reached out to today in his push to get Build Back Better and BIF to the finish line? He said when we saw him this morning, that's what he was going to do in the Oval Office. Any update you can give us?
Yeah, like you said, he was pretty clear this morning at the end of his comments on the economy, on the jobs numbers, that he was going to go back into the Oval Office and going to continue to close this out. So the president, as he stated, is in close touch with House members, advocating for yes votes for the Build Back Better Act and the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Like he said this morning, it's all about giving the middle class breathing room. And we continue to say, if you're concerned about costs, that's one of the best arguments for passing the Build Back Better Act, which will take some of the biggest financial trends that have worked against middle class families, like high costs of prescription drugs, and be a down payment against inflation by getting more Americans into the workforce. So he's going to continue to work the phones. He's going to continue to stay in close touch and stay in lockstep with Speaker Pelosi on getting this done. Everybody, there's a sense of urgency, as you've heard us say, today from everyone, from all the members on the Hill to get this done for the American people. And inaction is not the answer, so we're going to try and get this done.
Anyone specifically you talked to today that you
I
could-
don't have any calls to preview or to read out at this time, but as you can imagine, as he said himself, he's getting to work and keeping in close touch with folks on the Hill.
House leadership indicated today that it'll take some time to get the CBO score ready. With that in mind, why is the president urging lawmakers, as he said this morning, to vote yes on both of these bills right now? Why not give these folks some time to see what the CBO says and do their jobs?
So as you know, the Build Back Better framework that the president put forth, and also the bipartisan infrastructure bill is paid for. This is something that the president was very clear that he wanted to make sure happened, that as we move forward with these historical investments. And as yesterday's score from the Joint Committee on Taxation indicated, and as shown by the numbers calculated by economists across the administration, which aligns with the JCTs, and what I'm talking about is the Treasury blog that came out yesterday that laid out, you saw that it reaffirmed by Moody's an analyst. This bill is fully paid for by asking the wealthy to contribute their fair share, and that is exactly how we're going to move forward with that, and also reduce the deficit. So the big thing that we continue to say is the time is now to take action. As we saw from Tuesday, the American public wants us to move. They want us to move forward and actually deliver, and so that's what we're trying to do as an administration, deliver for the American public and make sure that this transformative bill really, truly moves forward so it can make a difference in people's lives.
Good. Thanks. The Speaker Pelosi just put out a dear colleague saying it is important that they advance both bills today, and you were just referring to the president's comments where he's called for them to vote right now. Is it the president's expectation that there will be votes today?
Well, so I can't speak for the mechanism, like I don't have the schedule, the floor schedule, as you can imagine, but the president's been very clear that he wants these passed. He wants these bills moved forward. If it's today, that's wonderful. That's great, because by moving them forward, we are making sure that we're taking action for the American public. So we're going to, again, work in lockstep with Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer to get these done. But we have confidence in her and in her leadership, and so I leave it to them on when this is going to get done.
I just want to follow up on what you're saying about the cost, because the Moody's Analytics says that, as the bill is right now in static terms, it would add modestly to the deficit over 10 years. So the numbers are different if you account for potential economic growth, like you were referring to, but that's hard to guarantee. So can you give assurances right here that this will be 100% paid for when everything is said and done? Because right now, moderates don't feel like they have those assurances.
Yes, we can give assurance that it will be 100% paid for. That's what we have seen for Moody's, as I just mentioned. That's what we put out, numbers ourselves, the scores ourselves, to show that it'll be more than paid for, but to pay for the bill. And so we are confident. We are keeping that promise, making sure that people who make less than $400,000 do not see any taxes on them, and also just making sure that it doesn't add to the deficit. That is the red line, if you will, that the president had when it came to to his economic policies.
If I can just ask one more follow-up really fast. When you, to that point of what the arguments that the moderates are making, they've made an argument similar to how you started. Yeah. You started by saying that there's these positive economic numbers, these positive job numbers, and that might be indication that such a big spending package just isn't necessary right now. So what's your answer to that? That this actually plays to what they're saying?
So two parts. What I was saying is that the jobs numbers that we saw today is an improvement. We're seeing that the economy is moving forward, and the reason why is because of the American Rescue Plan. The reason why is because we're getting shots in people's arms. The reason why is that people are feeling more comfortable. They're going back to work because they're getting vaccinated, and that American Rescue Plan, that historic bill that the president passed and only Democrats voted for, actually put money in people's pockets, actually gave gave a middle-class tax cut to families. That was incredibly important. So what we're trying to do is continue that investment with his economic policy, the Build Back Better Act, and the infrastructure bill, which are also transformative, as I just said, and historical. So what we know and what we understand is, and one of the best arguments that to make for the Build Back Better Act is that 17 Nobel Prize winners in economics, as you've heard us say, and the president say, agree that it will reduce inflationary pressures, which is so important and so critical right now. The Wall Street analytics firm Moody's said the same thing again yesterday. So Build Back Better is fully paid for and will even reduce the deficit over the long term, as numbers from Moody's, JCT, which is what came out yesterday, and what our administration put forward in that Treasury blog that I mentioned yesterday. So that's what we have and that's what we understand.
Thank you so much. Democratic Representative Joyce Beatty said today that the House could vote today on Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure package, but could postpone action on the Build Back Better plan over its cost. And I wondered if you could say if that is acceptable to the president or if he sees it as a betrayal of progressive demands.
So here's what I'll say to that. It's like I'm not going to negotiate or speak to hypotheticals from here. Our main thing is that we want to see both bills done. We are working in lockstep with Speaker Pelosi, and as you know, the president and his team has been talking to members and their staff for the past several weeks. We're continuing to do that today, and we're going to get this done. Inaction is not the answer, and we got to move forward and deliver for the American public.
On a separate topic, Biden today mentioned that his administration had secured millions of doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 pill. Could you give us any detail on how many millions, when the delivery is expected, and how much it'll cost?
So I don't, so as far as the contract, because that would be a contract component, like you said, we're securing millions of doses should this receive, right, the regulatory approval, as the president said. So we have already contracted for millions of doses of the Merck antiviral drug in development as well. And so the contract is being finalized, and I would refer you to HHS for more information as it is available. But what's important here is that we encourage unvaccinated people to get vaccinated. So we don't want anyone to get COVID in the first place. So that's the thing that we want to make sure that people understand, is that we still want you to get vaccinated. This is, yes, wonderful and a great, has promising potential. It still has to go through the process, but it's very important for people to get vaccinated.
Thanks, Karine. You noted JCT and Moody's. Do you guys have a sense in terms of the Penn Wharton analysis? We've heard some Republicans talk about it. I think Senator Manchin has mentioned an iteration of it in the past, but finding that there would be a shortfall in the 10-year window. Overall, it would cost $3.9 trillion. What's kind of your read on that analysis?
Yeah, so the biggest problem with Penn Wharton's report is that they didn't model the actual bill. And so, for one thing, they incorrectly assume just $1.56 trillion in offsets when the Build Back Better agenda is fully paid for, with over $2 trillion in offsets that the president outlined in the Build Back Better framework that he put out last week, as you all know. And as the Joint Committee on Taxation, which is what we've been talking about, and our own numbers, which align with each other, confirm they underestimate, this is Penn Wharton, by $292 billion, the combined revenue impact of the corporate minimum tax, stock buybacks, international corporate adjusted gross income surcharge for those making more than $10 million. So the net income investment tax and loss limitation compared to JCT scoring. So they also don't include key areas of Build Back Better that will increase economic growth, like the child tax credit, putting more Americans to work, investing in affordable housing. So for example, just to give an example here, when it comes to the child tax credit, the analysis does not consider the benefits that most 450 economists, including 4 Nobel Prize winners, recently highlighted in an open letter. They also assume that unpaid for extensions of the programs are happening, which is not a reasonable assumption at all, and rest on the changing the president's stated position. So, I'm not sure what they modeled here, but it isn't what the Build Back Better Act actually is.
And then I think you asked about the president, but in terms of on the staff side of things, obviously your team put together the budget analysis last night, the preliminary budget analysis last night. Is there anything else you can talk about in terms of what they've been doing today to try and mollify some of the concerns of those 5 or 6 moderate?
I don't have anything specific. These conversations are continuing to happen, and so I don't want to, get ahead of that. But I can say we're working very, very closely with members and their staff to make sure that we deliver for the American public. Again, these are transformational, these are historical, these are going to change the lives of millions of Americans, and we want to get this done.
In terms of the message coming out of the election on Tuesday, that there are certainly moderate members who are particularly concerned that if they don't have things like a CBO score and some reassurances about the fiscal boundaries of the Build Back Better legislation, that they themselves could be in peril when it comes to the midterm elections. What sort of conversations is the president having on that point? Does he understand that kind of concern that they're applying in how they proceed with this, now that the urgency of getting this done prior to the election that's just gone by, it seems to be, eased up a bit?
Well, I can't speak to, I can't be a political pundit up here, but I can say that the president was pretty clear, I thought, after his comments after the election, and his primary thought or kind of assessment was that we needed to act. He believed that the American public, the voters, basically they felt that we haven't moved quickly enough. And so, we go back to, we laid out our scores through the Treasury's blog, and we've kind of, laid out how this is the revenue is going to be done. And so he pretty much feels that we just have to act. We cannot not deliver for the American public. And so it's basically about getting action, and the time is now to get this done. And so that's how his assessment is. He continues to talk to members, continue to lay out, okay, look, this bill, if we get this through, it's going to help inflation, right? That's a key understanding component of it as well, is what the Build Back Better Act is going to do.
And from what I understand, the plan to vote on the bipartisan infrastructure is at least scheduled for 4:30 this afternoon. Would that affect the president's plans to leave town? That obviously has already passed the Senate, therefore it would be ready for his signature as soon as it could get here. What's the impact on all of that?
So I don't have anything more on his schedule. Clearly, the president wants this to be done as soon as possible. If it's today, that's wonderful. That's better for the American public. I don't have any announcement to make about his schedule for today.
We want to know when he's going to depart.
Thanks, Karine. So your administration is negotiating cash payments for some illegal immigrants who were separated from family members under the last administration. Why give taxpayer money to people who broke federal law to get here?
You like this question, Peter.
It's
We talked
important
about
question.
about this yesterday.
But not to the heart of the point, which is that these people broke the law to come here, and they are going to get hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money.
A couple of things. I mean, I cannot speak to this from here. This is Department of Justice.
And we asked them, and they said no comment, so we have to ask you.
Well, and I'm telling you that this is in litigation, and so you have to talk to the Department of Justice about this. This is not something that I can speak from here on the particulars, on the specifics. But, I said this to you yesterday, Peter. One of the things that we have to remember why we're in this place that we are today is because we had an administration that had an inhumane, immoral policy that was taking babies away from their families, from their mothers. That was the policy of the last administration. That is why we are here today, and that's you asking me this question that I actually cannot answer because you got to go to the Department of Justice to get the particulars. But just be clear, that's why this is happening today.
Okay, so Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley have written a letter to the Attorney General. They say that any settlements to illegal aliens because they violated the law are wrong. Does the president agree with that or disagree with that?
So yesterday I addressed and I clarified the president's comments on the thinking on this because you asked him a question and he answered it directly. But anything about the process, again, anything about the specifics or the particulars, I can't answer from here behind this podium, so you would have to go to Department of Justice.
Then to internal White House processes, when the ACLU heard the president dismiss the idea of $450,000 payments the other day, The ACLU came out and they said he may not have been fully briefed about the actions of his very own Justice Department. So is the president being kept out of the loop about immigration policymaking?
Again, Peter, the president was asked, you asked him a question, a direct question, he was answering it. I cannot say any more than that.
Okay, final one then. There is a long line to get into this country legally. Is there any kind of discussion about giving people who are coming here the right way money?
Why would we be giving people who are coming here the right way money?
Why are you giving people who came here the wrong way?
I mean, but I don't understand the question. What is, you're saying
giving
that we should
illegal
give,
immigrants.
we should give people just money who are coming through? I don't understand the
You're
question.
giving people who immigrated here illegally money.
Like I said, that's the Department of Justice. That's, you're gonna have to ask them that question.
Okay, we'll ask again.
Okay.
So if it passes, does the White House want Speaker Pelosi to send over the infrastructure bill for the president's signature immediately? Or is it your preference that that waits until the Build Back Better plan gets a vote in the Senate?
So if the Build Back Better infrastructure bill passes today, the president's going to sign it. That is, but he also wants to make sure that we get the Build Back Better Act done as well, the framework that he put together. So both bills are critically important to him. He wants to move both of them forward as quickly as possible to, again, deliver for the middle class families, the middle class Americans. And if when Biff, there's so many Bs. If the infrastructure bill is passed today, he will sign it. Absolutely. It's important to get that done for the American public.
And will he stay in town to sign
I
it?
don't have anything more to share. I know you guys are trying to get that from me. I don't have anything more to share about his schedule. And so, like I said, he's going to continue to work in lockstep with Speaker Pelosi to get this done and work closely with Senator Schumer as well.
Has he talked to Speaker Pelosi today?
I don't have any calls to read out.
I know that, but I mean, you just said they're working lockstep. Surely you know if they've spoken.
Well, it's his staff, our staff, and the president as well. I do not have anything to read out to you, but like I said, we're working in lockstep to get this done. This is incredibly important to the president, as you all know. Go ahead, Stephen.
I want to ask you about some of the changing contours of the Build Back Better reconciliation bill just in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
In addition to putting paid leave back into the bill, the Democrats also have added, they've raised the limit on state and local tax deduction. All year, the White House has been saying that would be too expensive to do. What changed, and why is the White House backing it now?
Well, as you know, as you just stated, that is not something that we clearly put into the original bill. Look, but the president understands from both Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer that for this bill to pass, it needs to address the SALT issue. And because many members of Congress believe the 2017 tax law unfairly targeted their states and localities, including middle-class income Americans, with a $10,000 cap. So it is a long-term sustainable reform that doesn't add at all to the deficit over the decade. And over that period, it will mean that millionaires and billionaires actually pay more than they would otherwise. The agreement reached in the House of Representatives would raise the cap to $72,500, fully paying for itself across this decade. It's a sustainable solution that means those with lower incomes would be able to fully write off their state and local taxes, while millionaires and billionaires would see their deductions cut back and pay more over time. This is one part of an overall package, as you can imagine, Stephen, that asks more from the highest income Americans.
Separate matter.
Yep.
Last night, the White House confirmed that one of the members of the traveling party in Scotland came down with COVID. Can you say whether this person was either a commissioned officer, as you said you would disclose, or a senior advisor, or someone who was a trusted advisor to the president?
So I'll say this, just to confirm, and so folks know, and I think people know this already, one member of the president's traveling party tested positive through a lateral flow test on Tuesday for COVID-19. Although additional tests to date have been inconclusive, this individual did not have close contact with the president and is not exhibiting any symptoms. The person has remained in Scotland to complete the quarantine period with the support of the administration.
But just back to my question, is this
Yeah.
person either a commissioned officer or a senior advisor?
So let me just give you a little bit of what our protocol is. So, because we want to make sure that we are transparent, we provide updates on any White House official who tests positive for COVID-19 that the White House Medical Unit deems as having had close contact with the President, Vice President, First Lady, and second gentleman. So that could include the individual's name if they consent to share it. So the criteria for who is in close contact with the president is determined that by the White House Medical Unit and is in line with CDC guidance.
So just to nail it down, is the White House no longer sticking by its pledge to name?
Well, I just laid out what it is close contact. Whoever is considered by the White House Medical Unit to have close contact with one of the four principals or either of the principals. That is, I just read to you what our protocol is.
In close contact.
Exactly. Thank you. They were not in close contact. We're just being transparent here because, they did stay back. And so we just wanted, and we've been asked this question, so we're making sure that we're giving the answer. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I know you've been talking about the president is, both of these bills are very important to the president. He's pushing on this. I guess I just wonder at this point, what is the leverage that the president has? Say for instance, and I know there are a lot of contours, a lot of things are changing right now, but if the infrastructure bill does pass today, and then moderates decide they do not want to do the larger spending bill on climate and child care and all of those things, what can the president do to make sure that the larger bill gets passed?
Yeah, but I would say this, the president has been in contact with moderates and progressive with, the big tent party that we have. And they've been in and out of here, out of the Oval Office, out of the White House. The White House, my colleagues, his White House staff has been meeting with them regularly. And so I would say, I'm not going to really get into a hypothetical, but we've been in close contact with all of them. The reason why the president put forth the Build Back Better framework, which was about a week ago, is because what he heard from both sides and wanted to make sure he put forth something that he believed was going to get passed, that was going to get the 50 votes from the Senate. So we're just moving forward with where we are. He put together the framework. Yes, paid leave is being discussed and being put back in, which is something that is very personal to him, making sure that people can afford pharmaceutical drugs, right? Be able to not have to pay their whole entire paycheck on getting, pharmacy drugs is important as well, so that we see that's in there. So all of these things are so important to the American public, and so that is the main thing. So, and the other thing too to think about is that Democrats agree. They're all on the same page. They all understand that we have to move forward with the president's economic policies. What we're talking about is different components and what that looks like. And so now the speaker is working very closely with her members and her leadership to get this done. And so we're going to continue having those conversations and making sure that we get this voted on.
Would the president be okay with holding votes on both bills until after the CBO has scored Build Back Better?
Well, I already answered that, right? We put our scores out yesterday. And we've been pretty transparent on that component. The president believes that we have to take action. If anything, that he had said himself that we saw from earlier this week, voters want us, and American public, I should say, want us to take action. And so we have to deliver for the tens of millions of Americans who have been left behind, where the economy hasn't worked for them. And so that's what the president's been very clear about. He wants to get this done as soon as possible. If it's today, he's working for today. If it's today, that's wonderful, but we want to get this done. That is the president's main priority.
Thank you. Well, quick follow-up on that, actually. You were saying that the president has been speaking to progressives and moderates in recent days.
That's the last couple of weeks we've seen that.
Just hoping you can provide some clarity on, even if we can't name which members he's been speaking to, just what his message is at this point. Is it as simple as vote yes on these today, or is it pointing to the scores that you put out last night? Just a little bit of clarity on.
Well, I mean, I'll just share with you what he said this morning, which I think had a lot of clarity and spoke specifically on what he's thinking. Like the Build Back Better framework lowers your bills for health care, child care, prescription drugs, and preschool, and families get a tax cut. That is the message. That is what we're trying to do. That is what we're trying to deliver for the American public. And also, it fights inflation, right? If we get this done, it will help deal with the inflation that we're seeing with inflation. So the president has been very clear on this. This is about the American public. This is about helping the middle class, helping them get a fair shot, as the president says. Make sure they're not left behind. And so that's the message. And here's the thing: Democrats on the Hill, they understand that. They understand that we have to move forward with an economy that works for all. What we're trying to figure out, what you have seen, is just working through the components. And right now, Speaker Pelosi and her leadership is working to getting a vote on Build Back Better and moving forward with BIF.
If moving forward, if we see the agenda pass advance today or in the days to come, just what's the White House strategy going to be like to actually sell this and make it an electoral winner, right? Because for many American people, they associate these packages as these sprawling legislation that's been locked in congressional gridlock, but they may not actually see the exact benefits. It may take a while for them to see direct benefits as well. So can we see officials go out doing trips, and what will they be talking about?
Absolutely. Clearly, we want to get this to a place where we get it passed, so we can talk about the next steps after that happens. But I also would say to you, Zolan, that there are components of this bill that's very popular. You know, we've seen that in the polling. There are things in this bill that the American public love and understand and need. And if you think about the American Rescue Plan, right, you think about the child tax credit, which the American public is already feeling, right? If you are a family, 9 out of 10 families with kids are going to get a middle tax cut. And that's important. And so that is something in this BBB framework, this Build Back Better framework, that we're trying to continue to extend that child tax credit, which, again, people are feeling right now. They're able to have those extra dollars so that they can, buy supplies for their kids, so that they can make sure that they go to that doctor's appointment for their kids. And it also has cut poverty amongst children by 50%. So they are seeing some of the factors that we saw from the American Rescue Plan. So now we're trying to move it forward, and with these other historical components that is in the bill, to get that across the finish line, so we can really see that transformational change for the American family.
Karine, you mentioned preschool. Why are faith-based child care centers not eligible? I'm asking a legitimate question here. Why are faith-based child care centers not eligible for Build Back Better money to make renovations to their facilities?
Just go ahead, ask your question.
I
As
have
expected,
I can ask
a number
questions,
of states have
Well, I'll ask
filed suit
questions.
against the administration over this vaccine requirement for workers at large companies. I'd like to get your response to that, and also, how confident are you that this mandate can withstand these challenges?
So we are very confident that it can. Just a couple of things that I wanted to just lay out so that people understand. As for the legal side of this, let me be crystal clear: to avoid what appears to be possible misinformation or disinformation around the emergency temporary standard being a vaccine mandate, that would be on its face incorrect, as has been explicit for months. It is a standard for safe workplace to either comply with weekly testing or to be vaccinated. And second, as outlined, the Department of Labor has a responsibility to keep workers safe and the legal authority to do so. To quote from last night's call on this, the new emergency temporary standard is well within OSHA's authority under the law and consistent with OSHA's requirements to protect workers from health and safety hazards, including infectious disease. OSHA has broad authority to issue and enforce health and safety standards to protect workers in staying safe and healthy in their jobs. So this is something that we believe that we have authority to do, that the Department of Labor does. So this is a power, because this is a power that Congress empowered OSHA with through a law that has been on the books for more than 50 years. And to reiterate, we focus on accelerating our path out of this pandemic and saving lives, and why others are not in wanting to do that is a question for them. So we believe we have the authority to do this, the Department of Labor. And again, this is about saving people's lives. This is what this is about, and making sure that their workplace is safe.
Again, regarding Build Back Better, why are faith-based child care centers not eligible for Build Back Better money to make renovations to their facilities?
Yeah, for sure.
The president, when he was overseas, suggested that he may be looking at different options. That OPEC Plus is not going to increase the supply. Is the president considering tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve?
Yeah.
Is there a timetable for making a decision on that?
So I don't have an announcement at this time. As you can imagine, we're trying to we're going to use every tool at our tool belt to do what we can, assessing and monitoring the situation on the oil process very, very closely every day. I just don't have additional actions on this.
And then he met yesterday with Fed Chairman Powell and also Fed Governor Brainerd. What is his timetable for making a decision on some of the vacancies on the Federal Reserve? I mean, he said, it could be very soon. Is he looking at a decision next week?
So just to be clear, I'm not going to confirm any internal meetings that the president may have had or may have not had. As the president said this week, he expects to make a decision. He said this just the other day on Tuesday when he was in Scotland during his press conference. I don't have anything to confirm beyond that.
Thanks. Two questions for you. First of all, the climate change, and he's using the word now adaptability. And I want to go back to that and drill down on that just a bit, because what this administration seems to be saying is that the life that your children are going to lead, my grandchildren are going to lead, are going to be substantially different than what you and I have seen as far as climate on the planet. Is he concerned that that we're not going to be able to at all mitigate the climate change, that we're going to, that for the species to survive, we're going to have to adapt, or does he mean policy adaptation?
Well, I think in general, the president wants to do everything that we can to fight climate change. And wants to be a leader, not just here, right, as President of the United States, but globally. And I think that's what you've seen from the president since day one. He said when he walked into the administration that climate is one of the crises that we all have to deal with as a country. And so this is what he's focusing on. We just went to COP26 and talked through a bunch of ways that we can deal with fighting climate. When you think about the Build Back Better plan, when you think about the bipartisan infrastructure, there's more than $9 billion in both to work in a historical way to fight climate. So that's what the president's focusing on, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to make sure that we actually deal with this issue that's in front of us.
That I understand,
Yeah.
and I do have a follow-up, but that I understand. But are you saying that we are the crisis is for the survivability of the species, or are you saying that adaptability is about how you would attack the problem?
Yeah, look, all I can speak to right now is how to attack the problem, which is what I laid out, and how we can be leaders in this and making sure that we really do everything that we can, right? Not just here in the United States, but globally to fight climate change. And so that's the focus of the president, and that's what we're trying to do to get this done. And Build Back Better, the Build Back Better Act, and the bipartisan infrastructure plan framework will get that done. Will get us closer to getting that done.
And then the follow-up on you were talking about. You've had a number of people that are celebrities with millions of followers who have come out speaking against vaccines. And in the latest, we've seen that the MVP of the NFL finally admitted that he lied and he never got vaccinated, and that he considers it a woke crowd that speaks about two vaccinations. Has this administration ever thought of reaching out to some of those people who have that type of influence to talk to them about getting vaccinated, or is it simply what you all are saying off the top? Have you worked with people individually?
So you've seen us, you've seen influencers come through the White House to talk about the importance of getting vaccinated and using their platforms, right, to talk to their followers. And that is something that we have worked really closely with influencers, with people who have access to millions and millions of followers. And we continue to do that. We have an amazing digital team that continues to do that work. And you've even seen the president partner up with some folks in that space. And so we'll continue to do that. But here's what I want to say. I want to say is that in this 18-month of the pandemic, we've lost more than 740,000 lives to COVID-19. And we are now in a position where when the president first walked into the administration, he made sure that he put together a comprehensive vaccination program. And now, I just laid that out earlier, 80% of the American public have at least one shot. And I just also laid out the jobs numbers. One of the reasons why the jobs numbers are where they are today, where we are actually, making progress with the economy, is one, because people are getting vaccinated. So that is so clearly important, and also the American Rescue Plan that he put forth to be able to put some money in people's pockets and really give people a middle class a tax cut. So those are things that are really incredibly important. And so the only way that we're going to get this pandemic behind us and move past it is if we continue to get people vaccinated. So that's incredibly important, and that is our message. And also, we understand and we have seen vaccination requirements work, and they have been successful. And so that's what we're going to continue to do, and work closely with states and businesses to continue to get people vaccinated.
Messaging?
No, I mean, I just laid out that, I could go back to it about how I gave an update of this week on how we're doing in the state of the pandemic. Here we go. We hit 80% of adults with at least one shot, and 70% of adults fully vaccinated. The CDC's decision made 28 million kids age 5 through 11 eligible for vaccinations. So all of these things are incredibly important. And if you look at the vaccination requirement, we'll cover 100 million American workers. That's how we're going to get to the other side of this. That's how we're going to move forward to make sure that we put the pandemic behind us. And that's our message. Vaccine requirements work. And also, getting a vaccine is safe. It's easy. It's easy to do. You can get it at your pharmacy. You can get it at your doctor's office. It's free, and so we encourage people to get that. It will, it will protect you. It will get you in a place where you feel comfortable to get back to work. That's what we're seeing in these jobs numbers.
Can I ask you a question on Ethiopia?
Who else?
Can I ask you a question on Ethiopia? Ethiopia is on the brink of a civil war.
Excuse me.
No, but I'm asking you a question.
I understand. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Isn't it better to allow more democracy, to allow more reporters to ask questions?
Go ahead, Eugene. Ask the question.
More reporters to be allowed to ask questions?
I am. I haven't taken up. Eugene, go ahead, Eugene. Go ahead.
On to what you were talking about COVID, there was a lot of talk at the beginning of the administration and during the pandemic about herd immunity, for example, like what numbers we could hit before people really started to get back to normal and got through the pandemic. So I'm curious what the scientists are telling you guys about what's the percentage of, I think you said 70% of that are fully vaccinated, 80 that have at least one shot. So what's the percentage we need to get to? What's the number we need to get to of Americans vaccinated before we do get through the pandemic?
Eugene, I understand your question, and I get it. I get to wanting to get a sense of the herd immunity, but that's not our focus right now. Our focus is to make sure that we do everything that we can to get people vaccinated. Our focus is to make sure, like now we have 5 to 11, young kids from 5 to 11 who can now get vaccinated, which is incredibly important, and parents, working with parents to make that happen. I think that's very important. Having these vaccine requirements, that's incredibly important. I just mentioned 100 million workers will now be able, that's what that requirement is going to touch, 100 million workers. We know that getting people vaccinated will help the economy, make people feel safer. We're seeing this right now with the jobs numbers that we just saw today, and which is incredibly important and critical. 620,000 a month on average, and over 5.6 million jobs created since he took office. And that's a lot is because of the president's leadership. It's a lot is because of the American Rescue Plan and getting those shots in arms. So 531,000 jobs in October, and the employment rate fell to 4.6%. So in order to get back, or getting this economy going again, this is what we need to do. So that's our focus. That's why we've made it available in a way that it's free, so that people can get it 5 miles away from their home in majority of places across the country. And we're just going to continue to have those conversations.
On Ethiopia. And back to the selling of the Build Back Better and the BIF and whatever the letter.
I know. Build Back Better Act and bipartisan infrastructure. Yeah, I know. They're both great.
Exactly.
We're trying to get them moving for the American public.
But when you guys think about selling it, we saw that with the child tax credit. We did a poll and just 38% of people gave President Biden credit for the CTC, and only 47% gave Democrats credit for the CTC.
Yeah.
So how are you guys envisioning that you're actually going to sell this in a way that people say, Democrats gave this to us, President Biden gave this?
So I think you're right. Like, we have to go out there and talk about these bills, right? And the thing is, the president has done that, right? He's traveled across the country and talked about his Build Back Better agenda. He's talked about the infrastructure bill. We've seen cabinet secretaries do the same. We've heard from White House officials here. My colleagues do the same. And we're just going to have to continue to have those conversations. And I think once we get those two pieces of legislation across the finish line, and we'll get out there, do a blitz, and make sure that that messaging is out there on what we have done and how we've delivered for the American people. And so that's really important. But the focus right now is we got to make sure we get this out of Congress and continue to work with members on the Hill to make sure that we deliver again this transformational and historical two pieces of legislation, so that we can actually change and invest in people, in the Americans' lives.
Okay. Can you ask for maybe one more?
Okay, one more. JJ, did I take one from you?
Not yet.
Okay, good.
Could you explain when the policy on the revealing the White House commissioned officers who have COVID, when did that change? Because on July 20th, Jen Psaki specifically said she would reveal the names of all commissioned officers, all the senior staff who have COVID. She would err on the side of being transparent and reveal it.
I mean, look, like I said, I'm just telling you what our policy is, and I'm happy to read it over to you again. Our commitment, again, is for transparency, so we provide updates on White House official who test positive for COVID-19 that the White House Medical Unit deems as having had close contact with the President, Vice President, First Lady, or Second Gentleman. That could include the individual's name if they consent to share it, so they have to consent to share that, and the criteria for who is in close contact with the president is determined by the White House Medical Unit, and it is in line with the CDC guidance. That is our policy. That's what I just read to you. I don't have anything more beyond that.
When that policy changed,
I just read you what our policy is, and that's what I have to share. Yeah.
Follow up
Okay.
on that.
Thank you, everybody.
Does the president believe faith-based child care center should
Ethiopia
be
is on the
eligible for
brink of a
Build Back
civil
Better?
war.
You might want to open the floor up to more reporters.